seagulls. Follow the chart. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the buzz and they left the buzz in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, it's the Tuesday ticket. The aftermath has begun. The inquest has started, Jonathan. The dust is beginning to settle. Welcome aboard the Boyce bus. As you can probably tell, my voice is still not where it should be. I definitely don't think drinking on Sunday has helped my flu, cold, whatever it is I've got. Yeah, that was a mistake. That definitely was a mistake. It's knocked me for 6 this week. I thought I'd squeeze in a wee hour on the pod, though, Jonathan. I think I'm fit enough to do that, you know. Yes, absolutely. So what a weekend it was. Before we get, obviously, the opening gambit, I know all you passengers have been looking forward to it all weekend. And as Alex Forsyth says, Piers Morgan, your men took a hell of a beating. I don't think he's very happy with the monarchy chants, but I thought that was funny. Do all that good stuff, though, before we get into Jonathan's crazy opening quips. Ali, if you want to subscribe, it's free. Hit the subscribe button. We jumped up an absolute shed load at the weekend. Can't thank you enough. Remember, it doesn't cost you a penny to become a subscriber. It is absolutely free of charge. The content is free. All you need to do is hit the subscribe button, hit the wee bell. You never miss a bus, and that always tends to be the best way. I noticed as well over the weekend we had a crazy amount of views and all that stuff, but 36% of those, Jonathan, who watched are not even subscribers. Hit subscribe. What are you waiting on?
Subscribe.
Yeah, because we'll fly up. It'll rock it if they were all to do that. But who cares? It's your gift to do it if you want. If you want to give us a like, if you want to give us a share, if you want to slag our hair, all of those options are there for you too. If you want to become a Boise Bus member, like David Ferguson, Gary Brown, Alistair Jack, Alex Forsyth, Margaret 121150, like Ali, like Buzz, like Jim C, like Ryan Taylor. We've got over, Jonathan, 100 paying members on the bus right now. I'm not sure if Pam and Tattoo have bought like 50% of those, to be honest with you. But yes, we've surpassed 100 members over the weekend. I can't thank you enough. It is $1.99 a month. It helps keep the wheels on the road. It just keeps the channel flying, and it means I don't have any overheads for something that we put in hours and hours and hours into each month. It is optional. Content is free. Now, I'll be honest, even I've been looking forward to this all day. Take it away, Jonathan.
Well, it's been an interesting week in Scottish football, Russell, and I think the key word coming out of this week has to be the one word we use quite often on the bus, and it comes down to awareness. And whether that is acutely awareness or just full-on awareness, there was plenty of examples of it over the past week. You had the goal that Celtic scored to knock Rangers out of the Scottish Cup, where the Rangers players were clearly not aware the referee had not blown for a free kick. But like Celtic always seem to do, they did not switch off for a second and were aware enough of the circumstances to fully capitalise. I mean, you were talking about awareness. Fashion Sakala, I don't think he's aware where the fucking goal is after that open goal miss in the second half. It's a truly remarkable moment in the game. Again, if that falls to a Celtic player, Celtic go ahead and make it 2-0. That is such the difference between the sides at the moment. I did say going into the game, I expected Celtic to go and throw salt into Rangers' wounds. It did turn out to be more of a sprinkling of salt rather than a full-on tossing of salt. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. There was one man who was going to stick the boot into the gut of Rangers' miserable season, and that turned out to be Ange Postecoglou with his post-match celebrations and indeed his comments as well. And really, it all goes full circle because it comes back to awareness as well, because Mickey Beale is now fully aware of the situation he has inherited. He is now fully aware his team are pish and are not going to be lifting a single trophy this season. And he's also fully aware that come Sunday at Tynecastle, it is going to be Coronation Sunday for the champions of Scotland.
Oh, too good, mate. Too good. No wonder I've been looking forward to that. That was brilliant. And I love how acutely aware is now becoming a theme one time for the opening gambits, Jonathan. You dare use my own spells on me.
I would say acutely. I would say fully. I was fully aware. I wasn't even acutely aware this time.
Yeah, I know. But yes, well, Jonathan, we are acutely aware of that league table. We're acutely aware of Celtic's positioning in the Scottish Cup final. We're acutely aware we've already got the League Cup won. I was having a wee bit of a laugh yesterday, though, where it actually turns out we've won 2 trophies already, if you listen to Mickey Beale, which was a good laugh when I kept saying it. I was like, I've never heard a manager until it's mathematically impossible say they've won 2 trophies. You're getting a lot of love in the chat for that, mate. That was brilliant. Right. Obviously, Sunday was another win. Let's get that right. And we are going to talk, by the way, tonight about the tour of Japan and Korea and stuff like that as well. We'll get there. But, the dust hasn't fully settled yet on Sunday. It's good to see that Terry's back in the land of the living. Hadn't heard from him since Sunday. I thought, fuck. I don't mean him. He's quit, hasn't he? He's not even replying to me anymore. I watched that back last night. And we were like...
Quite the ding-dong. Quite the ding-dong between you and Terry at points. And I mean, I actually liked Terry, but then he started saying Bobo Bally wasn't a good player. I'm like, Terry, the vodka, mate. You need to lay off that a little bit if that's going to be your take. It's ridiculous.
I'm sure I threatened to chuck him off. I went to say that again, you're off. I hope folk don't think I'm actually seriously, because I'm only having a bit of banter, I wouldn't actually chuck off Terry. But yes, so anyway, after all Sunday celebrations, we're still allowed to sort of look back at the game, Jonathan. What we did yesterday was we spoke a lot about the players who are now going to be afforded opportunity, right? Such as your Kobayashis of the world because of Cameron Carter-Vickers going. But I think it's time that we kind of speak, Jonathan, about the guys who've got us into a position where CCV, league's not finished yet. Still got the Scottish Cup final, but do you know what? See you later, mate. Your work's done. How did we get here? How did we find ourselves here? Who've been the main players with Player of the Year coming up? Stuff like that. Obviously, it's going to be getting spoke to. But I absolutely believe that when it comes to it, there's players in this team that are of a level that can remain part of Celtic's next stage of the revolution. And obviously, sometimes it's easy to go, oh, who's in the fringes and who's going to get their chance? What about the guys that have been doing it, mate? Do you know what I mean? Week in, week out. I mean, Celtic finally have picked up the ball and posted a tweet about Jota's numbers this season. I've been banging his drum the last few weeks, trying to make people aware, acutely aware, fully aware, somewhere. But I mean, genuinely, it's like Jota's 25 goal contributions and 38 this season. It's like, come on, hello. And he tends to do it in the big games. 2 goals in the Champions League, 3 goals against your rivals this year. This guy is an absolute worldie we've got there. And it's funny because I was listening to the radio today. They've not got a clue what they're talking. No, not the radio. It was PLZ Soccer. I know Peter Martin, like, he likes to kid on. It's the non-biased football show. He's more biased towards Celtic than what we are on the bus. Honestly, he was getting asked fair questions about, can they improve then? Oh, I don't know. I was just trying to give an exclusive that Ange is looking at 3 or 4. Well, where would you improve? He wouldn't want to answer it. And basically what I think they were trying to get out of it was, have Celtic proven with the last signings, i.e. Jota at 6 million or 6.8 million, Cameron Carter-Vickers at 6 million, have we proven that when you do shop in more expensive supermarkets, you do have guys there that I would count on both of those players straight away, Jonathan, as being mainstays in the Celtic 11 in the Champions League opening tie next season? I would. So that gives me an insight to think that sometimes you get what you pay for. And I think in those two in particular over the signings in the summer, obviously ones that were made permanently, I haven't already agreed the fee the year before, which people wanted to forget. I think those 2 guys are an example of living proof you get what you pay for sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you're looking at the foundations of how Celtic have got to where they have got to this season, then Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota have been a large part of that. I mean, that speaks volumes. The fact that Carter-Vickers, that he's been nursing an injury and has been needing to have, an operation for a few weeks now, by the sounds of it. But Postecoglou was also acutely aware that he needed CCV for the Cup semi-final before he was going to sign off on letting him go and have this treatment that he was needing, because that's how big a player he is for the team. Jota goes without saying. I mean, he is just that star quality. He'll end up going down, I think, as perhaps the most glitzy of all the players under Postecoglou's time. I think he's going to be that one with the star power, if you like, that's going to be remembered for a very, very long time after his days at Celtic Park are over, because he is just somebody that he can just change a game in a moment. And you've got to remember, he was also extremely well switched on to what was going on with Maeda. Whilst the Rangers players might have switched off for that goal, when Maeda gets onto it, Jota's already on the move and is anticipating that he's going to get that opportunity. And he does it so often in the big games. He's one of those ones we can always go back to and rely on to constantly produce the goods when we need it the most. And I think if Postecoglou is now looking into the summer, I think he is now proven with his track record in the transfer market that, £6 million for each of them. I think that's a fair whack of money from a Celtic standpoint in terms of how much we normally spend on players. It's towards the higher end, absolutely. But I think he is now given the board surely enough confidence there that they can entrust him with even more cash to spend on 1 or 2 additions of similar value, if not more, because Postecoglou's hit rate in the transfer market is ridiculous. And you know what, domestically, he's now very much on course for a clean sweep. So now he's going to be looking into the summer, and he's going to be looking at this as an opportunity now to really try and make a marker in Europe, because that is where Celtic have fallen down in recent years. And I think that is going to be the next thing Postecoglou is going to look to fix. And in order to do that, he is going to need more signings of the likes of a Jota or Cameron Carter-Vickers. There's no 2 ways about it.
Aye, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I think as well, when you're looking at the impact they've had with that money. I mean, remember, there was at times this, about 13, 14 months ago, which one would you go for, Jota or CCV? And I kept saying, them both. It's not even up for debate, in my opinion. You've got to get both of those lads in. And that's not me trying to be smart after the event. All our episodes are all very much available on the channel. I was almost getting frustrated that it became, I think Jota in some people's eyes was, in fact, I felt it a wee bit at times this season as well, to be totally honest with you. Not as much. I felt folk thought last year, maybe 6.8 million is a lot of money for this character. Are you mad? I think we've got to celebrate the successes that they've brought to Celtic. And I also get the vibe. You see guys like Jota in the Brazen Head. You see Cameron Carter-Vickers playing, last week, Jota doing that, which isn't virtue signalling, Pish. He's went there on his own. It's probably not recommended that you just cut about boozers on your own like that. He's doing it basically in the sense of trying to learn a wee bit more about the history. Just wanting to find out, the wee local boozers. Just he's curious about it. That tells me he's a wee bit invested emotionally in what he's doing at Celtic as well. You look at CCV and he basically tells Ange when I'll stop playing, mate. And if anyone could have told me apparently he's already had the operation today, look at his display on Sunday and tell me that's a guy with an operation pending, like imminently. You wouldn't have a clue. Again, what does it tell you? He's willing to put his body on the line for the cause. He's willing to be unfit over the summer, which we obviously love it, but it will put off potential suitors as well. So he knows he's probably closing the door there also. I think that's a brilliant sign for us. And I just feel like these guys they've stepped up massively domestically this campaign, but also you just feel like CCV, him 6 games with Starfelt in Europe, then we'll find out what this big man's all about. I'm convinced he can do a good job there. I really am. And if it's not Starfelt, there needs to be someone better than Starfelt that would be partnering him. But based on the partnership that we do see between those two, I think they can both make impacts there. You've got Kyogo looking like he could be the player of the year. Hatate is just an absolute world of a player. Might have been a wee bit quieter on Sunday, but he's not played in 3-4 games. That's going to happen. That's no problem. You've got Callum McGregor. We were comparing it to Paul McStay in the conversations, the last couple of days, which, again, I think is fair chat now already. He's going to have won 5 trebles before he's 30. What are we talking about here? It's madness. I just feel like there's a lot of good quality players on that team that we need to be celebrating as much as looking forward for guys to come in and make impacts. There's a reason there's players like Haksabanovic who can't get regular starts. No being funny, and it's not me being, I'm just picking him at random. But the reason is because the level at Celtic is going up, not the other way around. The standards are rising, and if you fall asleep behind the wheel, you will be left behind. No two ways about it with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're looking at Postecoglou, even when he's been saying this post-match comments, is you can't afford to sit still in Scotland, or you could end up finding that you get caught up. I think he is already aware of that going into the summer, that he still needs to be active, because the media narrative going into the summer, you're looking at the Glasgow 2, is going to be Rangers need to do X, Y, or Z to catch Celtic. But that basis of the narrative is pretty much Rangers need to do X, Y, and Z to catch Celtic as they are at the moment, not taking into consideration the fact that Postecoglou is going to go out and further strengthen his squad in the summer, because, as I say, the Champions League is one thing I think he'll have an itch there that he's wanting to scratch when it comes to the Champions League, because I don't think he'll have been overly satisfied, behind closed doors with how the group stages went last season. I know he might turn around and say to the cameras it was a good development opportunity for the squad, but I think he would have seen that as a bit of a missed opportunity given the teams we had in that Champions League group. And granted, he was a little bit unlucky. He couldn't play his favoured centre-back partnership last time around. But I think that's definitely something he's going to look to correct. I think when you're looking at the Celtic team, there's so much star quality in it. There's absolutely no question about it. There's a lot of players there that are more than capable of making the jump and the step up in Europe. You've listed so many of them, and I would expect there'll be a few more to come in. You've got, one that's, on the fringes of the team, Iwata, who was, the J-League Player of the Year last year. And we all know that league is clearly not full of mugs based on what we've managed to pick up from there so far. So you've got to believe there's even more levels to even the players that are out with the starting 11 just now. So the future is looking extremely bright from a Celtic point of view. I think when he's going into the Champions League, I don't expect him to go ahead and make any changes at the back. If he can get a centre-half partnership stuck with Starfelt and Carter-Vickers, I think he'll be happy to run with those two. I think he was pretty much hinting as much.
And he wants to get proven right on that as well. I think there's a wee bit in it. I don't mean stubbornness in a bad way, Jonathan, but I think there's a bit of Ange going, I had a plan. Do you know what I mean? And it was the injuries that cost me the plan this season, let alone next.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, I think he definitely sees those two as being good enough to play together in the Champions League. And, he's got enough evidence to back it up, because I think I'm correct in saying they've never lost a game domestically when they've played together. If they have, it kind of been very many, because they haven't lost many games at all.
No, I don't think they have.
I don't think they have. I don't think they have ever lost a game when they've played together. So Postecoglou already has that as his evidence to say, well, even against your Rangers team that were in a European final only 12 months ago, these two have always stepped up on that occasion, and they've never had an off day for him. I've put a foot wrong, so he probably feels they deserve the opportunity to see if they can make the step up against the best that Europe has to offer next season. So I don't expect them to make wholesale changes there. I think he's going to be looking for only probably a couple of players in, to be honest with you, Russell, because I think there is enough quality in the squad. I think it's just going to be about polishing some of the loose ends, if you like. I think goalkeeper is certainly one he'll end up looking at and wanting to fix. But I think, outside of that, we're fairly strong in most positions in the park, and he does have a lot of strength and depth. And the other brilliant thing about Postecoglou is he tends to do most of his best work on a training ground. And once again, because of the fact he's going to win the league this season, he's going to have a full summer to, train up the Celtic team again in Japan and South Korea.
I don't know. I don't know if it was your internet connection or you've just got a mad accent sometimes, but you were like, again, I don't know. Obviously, last week, for those who might not be on Twitter, one of our loyal viewers, O'Malley, who's been in there from the start, and he's a great lad, O'Malley. I chat away to him sometimes via DM. And O'Malley had snipped a wee bit from last week of Jonathan doing his sort of his rant thing. He just goes, and then you've got the SFA. And I don't know where it came from, but he kind of just did it again there. I don't know.
You're working me too hard. That's what the problem is. I'm needing a close season. I'm needing a break.
If you've not seen it, check it out on Twitter. I'm sure the Boise Bus Twitter page, which everyone thinks is me. It's not even me. I don't even have the login details for it, but I'm sure they retweeted it, so you'll be able to find it there. I think we just seen something similar. Sorry, Jonathan. I do apologise. I think it'll be.
All right, took you £5.
I do apologise.
I do apologise.
I think when it comes to the two areas, I'd be looking at big time. Is I would go all out and get, if it's going to be that Olympiacos striker they've identified. Was it Olympiacos? Someone tell me in the chat. He scored about 18 goals this season, 25 years old, might cost up to about 10 million. Go get him. Go get him if that's the prime target. Go get him, and I would go a goalkeeper as well. I agree with you. And then it would be, I would definitely have to have, I think Celtic have an honest conversation with themselves, whether that be Ange and Mark Lawwell or the board, and there will be Athens, that's the one, sorry. All right, Greek football experts in the chat, they're all diving into AEK, Jonathan. Pam and Brown Warriors, sorry. Nah, we'll let you. But I think left back, you've got to have, they're going to have an honest conversation at some point. Is the boy Bernaby going to push Greg Taylor next year for that jersey? Is he? If he's not, make the decision now and go out and improve that area of the park again. And then in terms of midfield, is an interesting one for me, because I do think that Avata, you're absolutely right to highlight him. He's in here. If he's in that Celtic squad to become a first team player, no two ways. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Moy depart in the summer. I think he might not be part of the next.
In the summer? I think they'll renew him. I think they'll keep him for another year. He'll be a squad player. I think he'll still be in the wrong squad.
But this is what I don't get though. People were getting on it as Jonathan this time last year for suggesting Celtic should pay 35 grand a week for Jordan Larson, but they would pay Aaron Moy over 20 grand a week to be a sub. No, just no. I wouldn't be surprised if we're surprised at how ruthless Ange is with it, and he does a Rogic on him. And we're like,
well, maybe.
I thought Rogic would have been right in his back pocket. And then it's like, year to go, you're free to leave. And I don't know. I could be wrong on that one. And then out wide, the wide areas, I think we've seen what Ange wants to have as his first choice, and it's Jota and Maeda. Maeda, because he is the Rubik's Cube of the team. He brings so many different questions, not always with his footballing ability, albeit that cross he plays at the weekend. I'm like, imagine if you did that every time. Wow. It was a brilliant ball. And he got his just rewards for never switching off, never stopping. Jota's always going to be in my team, no matter what, probably first, second name on it. But yeah, there's a really good spine there. It'll be quite exciting to see where we add to it, but we've got to be. I feel this summer, as Terry says, if we don't go aggressive this summer, then we never are. I think we've got a right to be confident that we could go push the boat out and see a couple of signs coming in that are of that record Edward sort of level, and that shouldn't have anyone wee in the bed. And I also go back to it. We spent over £6 million on Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota. Who scored the goal and who was the man of the match at the weekend just there, and who have had massive impacts this season, both Europe and domestically. I rest my case. That is always an argument to, if Andrew's identified them and that's the bracket they're in, go and fucking pay it this summer. They ain't made excuses, Celtic. Get on with it. But Jonathan, they might have more revenue coming because it's time to take the boys on tour. Let's go to Japan. Let's go to South Korea as well. I love it. This is where you're finding the branding. See, let's be real here. For all the detracting noise I may have given quite loudly at the time when Postecoglou was hired, got to be honest as well.
Nope. Oh, no, I can't hear you now. Oh, his volume's now gone. His volume's now gone, but, you back? Oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you with your mic. Anyway, I think whilst he's sorting that out, I think he's really getting on to the fact that obviously we are going to be making quite a bit of money over in Asia to kind of follow up from the Sydney Cup of last season. So, you're looking at it, and Postecoglou now has so many different, countries that he can now go into. And I think Japan was always one that we were going to be looking at as another option. I think we've called it before, and we won't have been the only ones that have called that as an option for Postecoglou to go and, go back to Japan, because he does have a bit of a following there. He's obviously got the Japanese players in there, so I have no doubts that'll be a successful tournament. It's also a case, I think it's the first time we've been there since 2006. So I think, again, that gives another opportunity there to go back to somewhere we haven't been in such a long time. That does make a big difference when you've got that as another option there too. So I think, from a Celtic point of view, from a commercial standpoint, it's a win-win. And I think, outside of that as well, that Celtic also are going to get the benefit of the close season with Postecoglou and a chance to go somewhere else and try their skills against, teams that I think will probably not be too bad, to be perfectly honest. I know we don't know an awful lot about the J League, and, probably up to a couple of years ago, we'd have probably turned our nose up if Celtic had gone over to Japan and were playing in the J League against these types of teams, because we would have looked at it and thought, this is a bit of a waste of time. These probably aren't going to test us very much, but they've already proven with the deals that we've done that the J League has something to offer. And I would expect this will be a really, really competitive tournament. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out.
Well, it is interesting. What I was saying there before my microphone rudely cut me off. And, if it's not Terry cutting me off, it's my microphone, Jonathan. I'm trying to win.
He's got the wires now, Terry. That's what's happened. He's got behind the scenes access.
I thought you were going to say he's under my desk there. I thought, you better know me. That's just weird. But when Postecoglou was announced, and for all the underwhelming tones I may have given out at that time, I was pointing to his footballing side of things. Don't get me wrong. When you hear initially that it's an Australian coach who's manager in Japan, not quite usually the sort of tags that you would associate with someone to be linked with the Celtic job. Boy, oh boy, has that worked in our favour, both of those factors. We've seen the Sydney tour. That's going to end up not just making us $6 million, but cost them about $3 million. They're in court over that now because they pulled out. They were doing the hokey-cokey with the tour. They didn't know what to do with it. Now we've got this one, Japan. There's someone in the comments saying $8 million, they reckon it could be that we make on this Asian tour. And again, it raises your profile in countries with fanatical football fans, Jonathan. That's the big thing about this. And also, one of the things for the players is it gives them a wee bit back. How rewarding is that you've only been at a club, say, like, for 6 months, and maybe it was part of the deal, by the way. The transfer deal was you'll play a friendly against these clubs, something like that. I don't know, I'm speculating, of course. But I mean, imagine being like, if you're a Maeda, you've only been at the club for 14, 15 months, and the club want to give you guys a trip where you get to go back to your home country and sort of get all the adulation, get all the love. And I just think there's something quite sound about that as well. Don't get me wrong. I know this is about the dollar, right? And it's all about dollar bills. But notwithstanding that, I do think it gives something back to the player as well emotionally. Maybe as a byproduct of it, fair enough. But it doesn't change the fact it is still quite a nice feeling if you're the player. It's not their gift to be worrying about, how much are you getting for a sponsorship and all that. They'll just be like, wow, I'm going back home now as a Celtic player to go and play in front of my home fans. You know what I mean? I think that's a wonderful thing to do. On both counts, yes. I know cynical side of me knows about the money, Jonathan. Don't worry. I'm just trying to look at it for Kyogo, Maeda's point of view, Tatty, and the rest.
Oh, keep them all happy. Keep them all happy at the same time.
And I think from then where it leads as well in terms of marketing opportunities for the sponsorship opportunities. We were talking on the bus the other week about the English Premier League removing betting companies as the front sponsor on shirts. Apparently, though, it'll still be over sleeves and stuff, so a lot of virtue signalling pish probably. However, it brought up a very interesting discussion from a lot of the fans who feel that they would rather it wasn't a betting company on the front of Celtic jerseys, if truth be told. And a lot of people were of that opinion. It was quite interesting to read. And you just think, you market yourself well in Japan and Korea, particularly in Japan, where you've got guys that, if they're wearing your brand because they're big names over there already. Maeda's the number one striker for Japan, remember? Let's not forget that.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And Kyogo, Hatate, and Iwata's the J-League Player of the Year. Hatate's 1 league, 2 league titles over there. And Kyogo's Kyogo. Everyone knows who Kyogo is. Do you know what I mean? So it's like those guys wearing your brand for Celtic, suddenly this could open up loads of different avenues in terms of commercial deals as well. So I think it's a very, very smart thing. And it does really feel like this summer's highlighting like where Celtic as a whole is now kind of moving into leaving them in the dust again, because they're scraping a bit for free transfers with injury records at Norwich. We're booking trips to Asia for more, multi-million pound pre-season trips, Jonathan, with the group stage of the Champions League already booked, with assets left, right and centre all over the park. If we were to sell one, we'll get 8 figures for them. They're not got anyone. I just think that right now the differences again, it all seems to feel now like they're as big as they've ever been before. The gap, if you want to call it that. But I don't just mean the teams in the park. I think we've got their number on the park, albeit we've not pumped them in recent matches, apart from the first one this season. But I feel like in terms of like the size and the stature of the clubs again, it does feel like Celtic's kind of moving into the distance, and long may it continue. But I just think we're beginning to see sort of these teams aren't on parallel train tracks. One's on a train, one's on a completely different vehicle, and it's probably only got 3 wheels.
Yeah, aye. I mean, Celtic are certainly beginning to once again flex their muscles as a club, and the commerciality of these sort of deals. When you've gone to Australia last year, and then you've got the trip to Asia coming up. There's just so much potential revenue there to be made from a Celtic standpoint. The club is just conducting itself far better than it did, a few years back as well. Everyone seems to be on the same hymn page now at Celtic once again, and we're trying
hymn page.
Hymn page, yes. That's if we all go to church on a Sunday, don't we?
Is it not hymn sheet?
Well, page now, I think.
Hymn page. I don't think anyone's ever said that.
Well, it's a new saying. Get used to it. It's here to stay.
You made that
up. But yeah, everyone is singing from the same hymn page or sheet or whatever you bloody prefer. And I think when they're looking at things like that from a Celtic standpoint, we seem to just be in a position right now where we're seeing opportunities and we're taking advantage of them once again. Whereas Rangers as a club are in a totally different space. They'll probably have to cobble together some friendlies. They're going to have to try and go again for Champions League qualifiers, as well as revamp their whole squad, because that's what the fans will demand, because their team have lost at every hurdle. Again, this season, they're finishing the season without a trophy. Celtic have again asserted their dominance on the pitch, but the reason Celtic assert their dominance on the pitch is because a lot of the time the foundation is already created by what Celtic do off the pitch, and that foundation is just continuing to get stronger and stronger at the moment, whereas Rangers, as everybody knows, are a bit more built on sand at the moment, and they've got a lot of work to do to build their foundations back up to the point where they can really challenge Celtic in terms of the commerciality of the deals that we are able to get. So from a Celtic standpoint, long may this continue. It could go on for quite a long time to come yet. I mean, I was listening to the phone-ins just because I enjoy hearing a little bit of pain sometimes from the opposition. And, you know, they were turning around.
Nothing wrong with that. We all do.
It was like going to be another 5 or 6 years of Celtic dominance. And this is coming from the Rangers fans. And you're like, oh, well, at least somebody's acutely aware in the Ibrox camp that Celtic are once again proving that they are ready to just go one step further each year. And, you know, as long as Postecoglou's there and the vision is intact, Celtic are just going to make more and more money. And the more money Celtic make, the bigger that gap is going to get. And we're talking about these commercial deals. That's before you even add in the fact there's more Champions League money on the horizon as well next season.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, everywhere we turn right now, and I used this analogy about 2 months ago. I'm like, everywhere Celtic turn right now, a door's opening. Everywhere they turn, a door is slamming shut in their face. It's night and day right now, as they're saying in the chat. 420, somebody was saying, you know, it's night and day. It's brilliant times to be a team, and I understand all this optimism as well, because it does feel like you're saying, like everyone in tandem. Like, are we literally now finally doing what we probably should have done under, in fact, not probably, definitely should have done under Brendan Rodgers, whether people want to agree with that or not, I can't be asked to argue about it. They decided to pull the rug a wee bit on that. And then you get something like Anjan having a very similar impact. And then it's like, how do you go to the next level? You're going to need to keep forking out. You need to keep investing. You need to keep supporting this manager. Do you know what I mean? That's what we're going to do. And right now, I think he's got the full trust of the board. And I think he's being able now to he's going to have this summer. This summer will be massive in the sense that he'll be able to hold sway this time. And I feel that they can't afford to make the same mistake that they made before, because there was uproar when Rodgers left. Whether people have revisited that situation now and aren't happy with Rodgers, etc., that's not what I'm talking about here. At the point in time, it felt as though the board had lost their bottle before Rodgers lost his. That's how I see it. You know, when John McGinn's, etc., and players that he's never heard of are being signed for £1 million and stuff, where his main targets are not getting even a look in. Now it's a case of, I think, if Ange has main targets, okay, we're not saying we'll get them all, because that's just unrealistic, but hell mend them if it's not through a lack of trying. That's what the difference will be this time. And when you've got everyone in tandem like that, we are pretty much unstoppable domestically. But notwithstanding that, I think the yardstick we will measure Celtic by, and Angie's spell at Celtic by, and I think Ange will do the same, by the way, is he'll measure it by what successes he has in Europe. And that's what we need to be gearing ourselves up for this summer. And that's what I think we are positioned to be able to do so as well. Obviously, we've got the live chat open. We're always up for a wee curveball of conversation. Was there anything else we needed to cover before we do that?
I don't know if there's anything really else. It's interesting you mentioned Brendan Rodgers, because he was actually at the game at the weekend, wasn't he? I wonder what he was making of it when he was there. I wonder if he has any tinges of regret now that things haven't worked out at Leicester for not hanging around a bit longer. But as you say, I think it should have probably happened. What Celtic are doing now, if they'd done that under Brendan doesn't leave, Celtic would probably secure the 10. You know, and everyone, you know, is happy, and we don't end up in that sort of position where we had that horrible season under COVID. But by the same token, they've won a watch by getting Ange Postecoglou in the building now. There's no doubt about it. He is just as well liked as Brendan was at the peak of his popularity, if not more so. You know, and I think the board are too clever, surely, to not make the same mistake twice. And they will back Postecoglou or do everything they possibly can to make sure that they continue to push forward as a club. And I think that is going to be the big difference between what Postecoglou is going to be trying to do this summer, is that everyone is going to try and go the same way and pull in the same direction, compared to what ended up happening by the time we got to third season under Brendan Rodgers, where everything began to sort of fall apart, and that was why he ended up leaving halfway through that season. But what's interesting that you mentioned Brendan, just because I did remember he was actually at the ground, and it'd be interesting to know, Russell, you think he could ever end up back at Celtic, Brendan Rodgers? Do you think there was more to it than him just being there as a casual fan?
I don't think Brendan Rodgers goes to see Celtic at Hampden without Brendan Rodgers having a million other thoughts than just the game. That's just who he is, mate. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those folk. And if that's his first baby step at being seen, I'm back in the area.
Like Hugh Grant, hi.
Hi. Just testing the water. Remember me? Yeah, he's finding out, mate. He's finding out if he's going to get lunched or not when he inevitably applies for the Celtic job at some stage in the future. He's not daft, mate. I think he's the only person in the world with an ego big enough. And you could look at that as a positive or a negative. I don't mind it, to be honest, but I think he's the only one with an ego big enough to let's say, reapply for the Celtic job were it to become available. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, I think he definitely would. It's a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a bit of a shame they didn't have him on punditry. As well, because him and Martin O'Neill together could have been box office just because of the way that things worked out.
I think Brendan would sit that one out and would be wise too.
I think Martin O'Neill might have had a clever comment coming his way if they were both doing it together, but it certainly would have been interesting if they had been able to reach that sort of agreement. But Rodgers probably at this moment in time is happier sitting up in the stand.
It's like baby steps, mate. Baby steps.
Give it another few years and he might venture down into the Viaplay studio, perhaps, if he feels the fans are beginning to warm to him again.
I don't think he would go if O'Neill was there. I don't think it'd be worth his while. I think, fuck that. In the presence of real greatness then, Jonathan, A few comments coming in. Everyone's saying, get Brendan on the bus. That'd be good. Brendan fancies coming on the bus more than he can, but it looks like as long as we beat Hearts, then next week...
We're needing somebody else for post-match pish by the looks of it anyway, so we could sign Brendan up. Not a problem.
That'd be good. Don't you worry about Viaplay Studios, Brendan. Just come on the bus. You can do post-match pish for me. But yeah, I mean... if Celtic get the result of the weekend, Hearts, Tynecastle, good place to win the league. Of course it is. I mean, what I would say is, if we win, that means next week, confirmed, I will be dialing in onto the bus, Jonathan, the guest. I've told you, the biggest guest in Celtic fan podding history. I watch all that everyone's doing right now. Oh, it's nuts. I'm actually kind of shiting it, to be honest, to actually do it. But if we get the result against Hibs, it'll be next week. If we don't against Hearts, if we don't get the result against Hearts, then we need to push it back another week. But once that is secured, it is a guarantee that we will have that name on the bus. And
it's a big one. It's a big one from what I've heard.
No one will believe it. No one will believe it. Right. One more talking point that I'd seen earlier, and it was from Kevin14. I know Kevin is always lively in the chat whenever he can watch live. So a big thanks, as always, Kevin, for jumping on the bus. I sent any word on the Bumblebee top. They arrived today. So I've literally just got to get them posted up, and I'm going to write everyone a wee note individually, Kevin. So yes, that is my job for tomorrow. There was another one he'd sent, though, and it was about Greg Taylor. Do you feel confident, Jonathan? Oh, it was Kev M, 1970. I do apologise. It wasn't Kevin 14. I'm looking for the
fucking Doogie 5 again. Or do apologise, Kevin?
I do apologise. Evening, guys. Would you both be happy going into the Champions League with Greg Taylor? I think we need a new first-choice left-back, another midfielder like Katati, and a left-footed right winger. We'll just deal with the first part because we've kind of discussed the midfield and stuff. But the Greg Taylor one's a strange one. Champions League quality? I think it's a fair question to ask. Is he of that level, really? Don't know. Has he, though, elevated himself from a standard that I didn't think he was already capable of before to where he is now? Yes. So therefore, the next hurdle would be then surprising us all again and becoming a Champions League level player, Jonathan. Would it be a position I'd be looking at in the summer? Again, I think they need to have a frank, honest, either conversation or concession on Bernabei and make their mind up on that one. If there is a unwavering belief from both Ange and the coaching staff that no, we've got a live one there, he's going to get there, just need to keep working on him, settling in periods, kind of over now, he'll push for the first team jersey. Sound, that's fine. But we're not privy to these conversations. We can only make observations from the limited time we've seen Bernabei, and it seems to be quite split on that front. But that would then mean, of course, if there is going to be that lingering doubt on Bernabei, that Greg Taylor would be your man, if you like, to start week in, week out in the Champions League. I don't know. I'd be hopeful that Greg Taylor could find another level again. And if not, and if it is the case that Bernabei's, they call that experiment short, I'm not saying they are, playing devil's advocate, then you would definitely go, well, there's no point in getting another left back to support Greg Taylor. You go out and get one to take his jersey, or to fight him for the jersey. That'd be my logic to it. How do you feel about Greg Taylor lining up 6 games out of 6 in the Champions League?
If Greg Taylor ends up being the option there, I don't have a massive issue with it. I don't think Taylor was, too bad, in the last Champions League campaign. I think he has came on leaps and bounds. I do think, we are needing a bit more competition at left back, whether that will happen with Bernabei or not. I think we're getting towards the point where I would imagine Postecoglou is having to take stock on that one and make a decision as to whether or not Bernabei can push him as much as Taylor needs pushed, because I think that has been the big benefit of what Postecoglou has done with this team, is he always makes sure he has quality options for each player. And I'll give you the example is that, Alistair Johnson comes off at the weekend, and people forget Ralston's barely played this season, but I guarantee not many would have had any concerns when Tony Ralston was warming up and came on, because we know what he can bring to the table. And I think that is what we need to get, on the other side at left back, as well as something that, can push Greg Taylor if they're not better than him. And if that's not going to be Bernabei, then we are going to need to look at that, in the summer and address that position. But for me, if you're looking at Greg Taylor playing in the Champions League, I don't have a massive issue with it. I look at it and I think, under Strachan, it was Lee Naylor, the left back then. I don't always necessarily subscribe to the fact that, left backs, or certain players aren't able to make the step up to the Champions League level. I think with Greg Taylor, the progression he's been on, and I don't see any sign of that stagnating as of yet. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's able to kick on to another gear when he gets the whole summer of coaching with Postecoglou once again. But I think you're right. I think there is the question mark there is that if his position becomes too comfortable, then naturally that might mean the performance levels will just dip ever so slightly because you're not getting pushed enough for your jersey. So I certainly think in terms of options at left back, we need to improve. But if it ends up being Greg Taylor that ends up playing left back in the Champions League, I'm not going to be overly concerned about that.
Fair enough, very balanced. I like it, Jonathan. I like it. But it's that time, mate. Can you do it? Can you handle the heat? Because Phil McGinley is in situ and ready to appear on the bus for
Hello,
some
boys.
Hello, Phil.
Evening. Excited tonight, boys?
I'm with it, man.
It's like going to post-split fixtures now on Sutton Death.
I'm extremely confident tonight. Extremely confident tonight. I'm on the ball tonight. I'm on the ball tonight.
How many is it you've lost, like, roughly in a row now?
5 in a row, I think. 5 in a row, mate. That's how you managed to just now finally get it level. So well done on that, mate. It took you in a 5-win run to get level, mate. Trust me, I'm feeling pretty. I'm back. I'm back to normal.
It's kind of now into the sort of final straight. It's a bit like the Grand National, Phil. What's happened is we've had a donkey leading, like what happens in the Grand National, for pretty much 90% of the race, and the thoroughbred is now coming on the inside. The jockey that's running the donkey at the front is now shiting himself, and I can almost smell the shite and the fear coming from Russell.
No, mate. Listen, you had your run. We made it interesting for the viewers. it's time to pull away again. You've not led in 28 weeks. Like, just calm down. Please calm down. You've not led in 28 weeks and call yourself the thoroughbred. It's embarrassing, mate.
That's what all good horses do. All good horses wait till the end, Russell. Do you watch horse racing?
No,
Don't really
mate,
get
I've got
the
better
analogy.
things to do in my life. Better things to do in my life. I'll win.
We'll see.
This is what it's all about on a Tuesday night, folks, because forget the heavyweight contest that we watched on Sunday at Hampden, because this is where it's at. I've been more excited about this tonight than that game on Sunday. I was like, this is the one, because last week, folks, after being 5 points behind, Jonathan got it back to 14 apiece. So it is an exciting one. There are 5 rounds left, so the mission is very simple for the Brothers Boyce here. Whoever wins 3 out of the next 5 is going to be the winner. So who is going to have the lead now? Who's going to get that wee yard in front as we head towards the finish line? Who is it going to be tonight? So yes, it is that time. It's sudden death time. So I've got the aesthetics done in the background. You have done your trash talking. All that's left to do is to cue the music, and we shall get started. Here we go. Okay, so you guys can hear me?
I can hear you, Phil.
And I can hear yous. And everyone in the comments, nobody is saying that the music's blaring. That's good. Of course, comments off, boys, as you know.
Yes, mine are off.
Okay, Doc. Okay, so, Jonathan, as you won last week, first or second tonight?
First, please, Phil.
Okay, no problem at all. Okay, so tonight's question, much like last week, is another one that has 14 answers. It's one of the ones I think when you obviously hear that, it's like, oh God, this is, small number. But I think when you hear the question, you're like, oh, it's not too bad actually, because guys, it is that time of the season again. It's post-split fixtures time since 2000-2001, when the split came in. Celtic have played 14 different teams in a post-split fixture match. So, simply the question is this: can you name any team that Celtic have played in a post-split fixture match? That is simply it. 14 of them.
Okay. We will take Rangers, please.
Okay. Yep.
The Jam Tarts, the Hearts.
Yep, Hearts is correct.
We'll go across the city and take the Hibs.
Yep.
Aberdeen.
And Aberdeen is correct.
Okay, we shall continue on. I shall go for St Johnstone.
Yep, played St Johnstone.
I will go for Steve Clark's Kilmarnock.
Yep, played Kilmarnock.
Indeed. Very well done.
I
shall go for Motherwell.
Motherwell's correct as well. Yep.
Craig Brown's Motherwell, I think it was, if you're wanting managers as well. Along with many others.
Bonus points for the managers, but good knowledge nonetheless.
I can't remember what team of theirs has been in it, but there must have been a Dundee United in the top 6.
Yeah, Dundee United is a correct answer. So it's now 4 each. It is your 5th kick each, boys.
I know who to guess. They're in it this time. I wonder if they've been in it before. Can I go for them? Or go somewhere else? I go Livingston. I'll go Livingston. I'm pretty sure they've been in there.
Livingston is correct. Yes, they.
102, I think. Russell, don't look so surprised.
We won the title against them that season, yep. And also in the COVID season, John Kennedy got a rousing 6-0 win against them.
So that would mean... When did the split kicked in 2000-2001?
2000-2001 season is when the split came in. Yes.
So I'm going to say Dundee.
Damn, I'd just written them down.
Dundee is correct. So it's much like last week. Once again, it's a draw after 5 shots. There are 4 answers left in the pot, so either we play until you get all the answers, or it's sudden death time. We're going to, so 4 left in the pot, guys.
5 each.
there's about to be 3 left in the pot because I'm going to take one that Chris Sutton wouldn't be happy with me for. Dunfermline.
Oh,
yeah. Jimmy Calderwood's Dunfermline, definitely, because that was, yeah, you're right, the Chris Sutton incident. Yep.
I hate this answer. I've got a feeling Inverness Cali Thistle.
Yep. You've got a good feeling because Inverness Cali Thistle is right.
How are you nodding away so sure?
It's Lenny. Yeah, Lenny's season when we almost won the league, lost at Inverness, remember?
Inverness did get in a few times in the top 6, especially in the years that Rangers were nowhere to be seen. Then Inverness did have a few good seasons in the top 6. So there's only 2 left, guys. So it really is just going to keep on time here.
A couple written down, but I'm not sure on any of them.
Okay.
I'm going to go for one, though. I think, I'm not sure if they were in the top 6 last year or not, but I feel like they might have been. Where are they? I think they were. I'm going to say Ross County.
Oh, no way.
You would be correct. Ross County were. We beat them 2-0 up at Dingwall with a few fixtures to go. Ross County. They've been in a few times, but yeah, they were in as recently as last season. So there is one answer left.
You need to get it, Russell.
I've got an answer written.
I think I know what the last one is.
Ooh.
It is Raj. This is ridiculous if it's right. I'm going to say Hamilton.
Well,
Hamilton Accies, they have been a topical one on certain guests.
MacArthur.
And I can tell you this, it's a noble guess, Russell, but it's wrong in this case. Jonathan has won. Russell, can you rewind back to last week when we were in this position and you took a punt on an answer, a Glasgow-based team?
Partick Thistle. It's Partick Thistle.
And Brendan's invincible season, Partick Thistle snuck in. Now, Jonathan, earlier on, you alluded to a team that you think might have been an answer, but you backed away. Was it St Mirren by any chance?
It was, yes.
Because the question was, can you name a team that we have played? We haven't actually played St Mirren yet.
I was trying to do the curveball on him. But I didn't take the bait.
No, I knew that.
That was my banana skin answer, because I thought they might say St Mirren, and we've not actually played them. But Partick Thistle, when I put the answers together, I was like, I can't even remember them being in the top 6. So that's one that they were the last answer. But yeah, it is now 15-14 to Jonathan. With 4 games left to go.
The thoroughbred has taken over.
Oh my word. Wow.
And the finishing line is in sight.
I'm relaxed again, man. I answered all of those as best I could.
You did your best. It wasn't quite good enough, but you did do your best.
Partick, so I've got to just take it on the chin. I wouldn't have got Partick. I need to accept.
No, I would have got Partick. That's a lie.
That's a tough one. That was a tough one.
But it was Hamilton. I thought maybe, because I think they did some good things under that. Well, he was the Chelsea coach, wasn't he? But anyway, what can you do?
You've led for how many weeks was it? How many weeks have you led for just to
lead? That's the first time you've led. So you've led 1 week out of 29.
And just when it gets to the business end of the season as well.
But plenty of time, mate. Plenty of time. All I need to do is win 3 out of the next 4.
Yep. The first league used to get to 3 wins is going to do it. So Jonathan's took that first step.
So Jonathan needs 1 more and he's won. No,
Jonathan needs 2 more. As when we started.
3 of the next 5. Oh, it's on still. No, that's fine. That's fine. And that's the last few weeks I've been answering much better than I was when I first moved in. I'm happy. I'm content, and we'll do it. We'll still do it. Keep the faith. Yeah. I think everyone wants me to get beat anyway, to be fair. I'm like, keep the faith. I was like, kind of want you to lose, Boyce, you prick.
It's very mixed in the comments. I'm starting to look at the comments now. There's a lot of love for John for turning it around. A lot of people saying no, like Kevin McGinley. He's there you go. No, so you go. Somebody there supporting you, Russell.
You've got some fans. You've got some fans.
Thanks so much. Means that we're old, man. Right, okay. What was I going to say, Phil? What's happening on Nostalgia this week? You got any master plans lined up?
I'm working on some stuff just now. I've got one more nostalgic season to do, but it's a nothing season, so I don't know if we should even talk about it. It's Lenny's final one from his first term, 2013-14. Nothing really happens in it. It's like we win the league, we're rubbish in both domestic cups. I could do that one, or I could do a wee special, or Yeah, because we've got the Rangers game again next week. Again, another fixture against them. So I've got something lined up for that I'm working on, but I'll come up with something between now and Friday. I might do that 2013-14 season, maybe. But I say it's a nothing season. If not, I will find something for us to do. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, on that note, we will leave it there. It's been a great fun in the old Tuesday ticket this week. Big thanks to Jonathan for joining us. His opening gambits are getting funnier and funnier each week. It's a great time to be a Tim. Big thank you to you as well, Phil, for helping us out with starting death. You know, I'm going to start sounding like Mickey Beale soon, you know, but I think I need to, you know, do a big rebuild for next week.
When you've all that stuff at the start, you know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.